I am Martin Asiedu Data. Coming up for the next 1 hour, big development on the labor front as organized labor meets to consider the Ministry of Finance's proposed alternative offer for pension funds, even as Clocksag accepts new offer. Details of that in a jiffy. Later in the bulletin, Energy Minister Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh says any state intervention to revive the Tema Oil Refinery will burden government. How true is that? We'll be interrogating the subject in detail also later. And economists urge government to refocus attention on agriculture as its contribution to GDP slows further in the latest GDP figures. And on the international front, ceasefire falters in Sudan as nearly 300 civilians have been killed so far, with fighting continuing into the 6th day. My name is Martin Asiedu Data. Let's settle for the details of our stories now. It's clearly starting from the conversation having to do with issues of labor. And this afternoon, organized labor has been meeting to put forth a common position on government's alternative domestic debt exchange program. This was after the two parties in December 2022 signed a memorandum of understanding exempting pension funds from the domestic debt exchange program. The Finance Ministry on Good Friday, the 7th of April, issued a statement after meeting with pension fund managers where the Finance Ministry urged the Board of Trustees of pension funds to allow for pension funds to be excluded, to be included rather, in government's new proposed debt restructuring offer. The new program, according to the Finance Ministry in a statement signed by Ken Ofori-Atta himself, is aimed at alleviating the cash constraints on the government in the coming years while fully compensating the pension funds for the value of their current holdings. The latest information did not go down well with sections of organized labor who have restated their earlier position that the pension funds must not be touched. But it looks as though there isn't a united front from the labor unions going into this meeting. Let's find out how it's gone so far. Labor correspondent Daniel Opoku has been, focusing or following the conversations around this particular meeting. He's joined us via phone for a quick chat. Daniel, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us.
Okay.
Right. First of all, are you able to give us an idea of which specific labor unions have come together for this meeting?
So basically, today's meeting is organized labor's meeting where you have leadership from the Civil and Local Government Staff Association. You also have the leadership of NAGAT. You also have the leadership of KEU. You have the 24 affiliate unions of the State Union Congress and other allied unions who are part of organized labor. And today's meeting is in two sessions. The first session is looking at the upcoming May Day celebrations, and also the second half of the program also be looking at what the new proposal tabled by the Minister of Finance, i.e. the DDU and the other issues that the Minister of Finance has tabled before organized labor. So this one, what they are doing is look at the May Day celebrations. And the thing actually is on pensions, incomes, protecting incomes and pensions. We want to look at the issue about pensions, also look at the issue about income, realize that there's a direct correlation because you have an enhanced benefit or enhanced pension based on your salary. When you have a low salary, then obviously you are likely to get a very low pension. So that's what the first half of the meeting is looking at. And they have a snippet of information. Earlier, the Secretary General was also talking about how workers have actually suffered when it comes to receiving low salaries. Both the Secretary General of the Trade Union Congress, also doubles the spokesperson of organized labor, was talking about low salaries that workers receive, and also the Deputy Secretary General was also talking about the same thing. And when we listen to the Executive Secretary of Clocksag, who a short while ago, or somewhere 2 days ago, was talking about Clocksag accepting the new deal from the Minister of Finance, he was basically asking the leadership of labor to ask government, what kind of mechanisms or systems we will put in place to protect the benefits of workers in case they retire. And when we listen clearly, we were trying to say that Labour should move on, despite the fact that Clarkside has accepted the new deal. Labour should move on. But most importantly, the concrete decisions will come out after this morning's event, where leadership of organized Labour will sit to discuss the new deal which the Minister of Finance has tabled before them.
Right, and clearly it looks as though it's going to be quite a comprehensive conversation between these Labour groupings. But on the specific component, which you say is the second leg of the meeting, having to do with the new proposal by the Finance Ministry for the DDE, what's the body language like? What are you picking up? Because we know Clocksack's position, they are all for it. How about the other groupings? Are they still against it? How do you foresee this playing out?
Right, so, Martin, there's an interesting scenario here. You have the Executive Secretary of Clocksack, Mr. Isaac Bampuado, in the said meeting as I speak to you, and Clocksack has accepted the offer by the Minister of Finance. Now, when you look at the body language of organized Labour, with the exception of Clocksack, I realize that they are not going to accept any new deal by government. So for them, they have totally rejected the DDE. So they have stuck to the earlier agreements or the earlier MOU which they signed last year, December, where the Minister of Finance was telling them that pension funds have been exempted. That's the body language I take. That Labour is not likely to accept the new proposal. But what probably might influence their decision for them to review their decision or to review their earlier position is a new deal. Because when you look at the new deal, the content of the new deal, basically you have a projection in terms of the interest rate, where you have shooting them from 3% to about 12%, then to about 21%, and also that will be spread across for some years to come. And in the case of Clocksack, for them, they believe that they'll be earning around the cash flow will be around 250 billion Ghana within a space of 3 years. But the other unions are yet to make their own analysis, independent computations on the figures. Right. Now, if government is able to convince them clearly, then obviously you are likely to have Labour review each area position and accepting the new deal based on what their various trustees and fund managers will tell them.
All right, Daniel Opoku, thank you so much for that report. Definitely will be coming or expecting the outcome of today's meeting in our subsequent bulletins we have for you. Still on issues about, Labour and state institutions, Senior and Junior Staff Association of the Ghana Water Company has embarked on a day's picketing at the head office. The aggrieved workers are protesting the appointment of Collins Ntiru Nyama as Deputy Managing Director of the company.
Here to register our position on the nomination of a Deputy Managing Director, Finance and Administration for Ghana Water. Our position has been spelled out in a petition that we have written to the Chief of Staff, and then we have copied the Director of SIGA, we have copied the Board Chairman of Ghana Water, the Managing Director, the Workers' Rep, and then the National Pool, and the Minister. Our position is very simple and clear. We want to state on record that we are not against the appointment of heads of entity by the presidency. But our concern is that the position of the Managing Director, it's an appointee of the presidency. But the Deputy Managing Director, we believe it's a position that should be filled with people with both the technical and institutional knowledge of our operations. We also believe that the technical people would also help the Managing Director, who is a political appointment, to do his work appropriately. We also want to state that the profile of the purported nominee indicates that he lacks the requisite professional qualification to be a Deputy Managing Director, FNA. By this, we want to encourage growth and succession planning in our institution. So we want to entreat and encourage the appointing authority to also consider that. With this, we want to state that the appointing authority should reconsider the decision of the nominee for the position of Deputy Managing Director, Finance and Administration for Ghana Water.
We understand the board is meeting this morning. Has the meeting started so far?
For now, we have not seen them around. So we can't say whether it has started or not, but they are not around.
So we'll see how all of that plays out in the coming hours. So let's talk energy now, because the Energy Minister, Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh, says any state intervention to revive the Tema Oil Refinery will burden government. Protesting workers have been demanding a revamp of the refinery by government. The minister, however, noted that he is yet to be briefed on the protests by the workers.
Matthew Opoku Prempeh bemoans the losses and illegalities perpetuated at the Tema Oil Refinery.
It's easy to always say there's a sector minister, and as soon as the minister does something, oh, the minister is interfering. It will break the back of government. The bills in tow. They have over $500 million of debt sitting on there. And go and look at how the debt's accumulated. People bring their crude to refine, and then crude losses. I set up a committee that worked for 8 months just trying to reconcile toll losses.
He explained efforts to make the facility viable have not yielded any positive results.
I gave TOR a new business opportunity in the premix fuel market, that all the condensate from Ghana Gas should go to TOR and use it for blending and premix fuel, right? The last time I heard, over $2.5 million worth of condensate that got missing from TOR. If we all want TOR working, we don't want another ECG in TOR, do we?
The workers have served notice to extend their protest to the Energy Ministry and the Presidency.
All right, let's extend the conversation and bring in the thoughts of some experts in the industry. First, joining us is Ben Boakye, who is the Executive Director of the Africa Center for Energy Policy, ACEPA. And thank you, Mr. Boakye, for your time. And we also have we also have Dr. Yusuf Suleimana, who is also an energy expert, joining us from Oman to help us understand it from the global perspective. But I'll start with you, Mr. Boakye. The Energy Minister himself says that in as much as it will be a good idea to have a properly functioning oil refinery, if government decides to support TOR to do that, that will be an extra burden on government. Is that a position you share? Or what do you make of that position by government?
I'm not sure whether that is the official position of government. What I do know is that government has appointed an MD who is heading the organization and is being paid. For what that MD is being paid for, I'm not sure it's for the MD to sit there and contemplate whether government needs to inject money into the operations of the company or not. I think we need answers and solutions at this point. TOR bleeding, people stealing products and paying for unwarranted debt from TOR is not new. And if you consider the fact that we have over 800 people working for TOR, I'm not sure all of them are engaged in the illegalities that are being mentioned. So how do you reconcile that as the owner of the asset and not be able to take the decisions that are relevant to really reposition the organization? We had a committee set up to go and investigate the operations of TOR and recommend solutions. The committee worked for several months, made money individually because they were paid, right? And we don't know any action that resulted from the committee that was set up to actually investigate the operations of TOR. We do agree that government has failed, and that is the underlying problem. The government has failed to manage the asset. And if it believes that consistently it cannot do it, then it has to do the needful of divesting the interest and allowing the private sector to come in. I mean, we have recommended way back that we needed a majority stakeholder from the private sector so that it can be a proper commercial enterprise that generates revenue and not debt. And as we have it, TOR has only been accumulating debt, and the public is called upon all the time to come and pay. We have paid for over 15 years TOR debt recovery levy. And the more we pay, the bigger the debt balloons. But the reality is that people are making money. individuals are making money from it, right? And that is where the political will comes in. Why are they not willing to let the TOR operate and function efficiently? It's because of the beneficiation that happens at the place.
And we on the back of that, we've seen, and it was actually surprising to many to see that staff of TOR are actually asking for, you know, a revamp of the refinery, and that they are willing to work to get it running to the benefit of not just them, but then to the country. And the government is also saying that it will be a challenge. So from where you sit, or your analysis of the operations of TOR, can it still run fully and independently of state assistance? And if so, what are the processes we need to start looking at?
The fundamental problem of TOR is management. Across the timeline, it's been poorly managed by poorly selected political entities who go there only to make money for themselves. And that is the bottom line. They don't operate with commercial mindset because the people don't have, you know, the task. They don't have the TOR that is enforceable by the appointing authority to go and deliver any benefit to the state. So they go there, do what they can do for themselves, accumulate debt, and the state picks it up. And that is the fundamental truth about what has happened with TOR over the years. And to be able to revert that, either the state decides that it will generate that commercial mindset for anybody that goes in there to go and work and be held accountable for the losses that they accumulate, or divest the interest, because otherwise the public keep paying, we keep paying, and nothing is resulting from the operations of TOR for all of us, right? So that is the bottom line. If we don't want TOR to function as the commercial enterprise to benefit the people, then we have to let it go.
Okay, let me bring in Dr. Yusuf Suleiman now. Doc, good afternoon and thank you once again. Talk to us about you know, global experience. You've been to a number of countries. You're currently in Oman. You've seen that countries have refineries that are running to the benefit of the people. What, in your estimation, is the Ghana story compared to probably maybe other African countries that you've been working with?
Yeah, thank you very much, Martins, and good afternoon to you and your charity voice in Ghana and across the globe. Yeah, so I 100% agree with Ben's submission and his assertions that we need a political will to be able to get the refinery into business because the competing interest is just too much with respect to the refinery. So, you know, putting it or juxtaposing it within the global context, what has worked for other countries and it cannot work for Ghana. Our simple problem is we haven't gotten our priorities right, Martins. And the reason being that I think the core problem with respect to the refinery is leadership. We need political leadership. And I wouldn't talk much on that because Ben has done a lot of, he mentioned a lot of it. In fact, that's key. If Ghana refineries work, we need a political commitment at the highest level. And the reason why we need that is because of the competing interests that I talked about. Now, what is the position of refinery globally? Refinery, it's difficult to have a refinery in Rantos, especially if you have, you know, RFCC unit like TOR is having. TOR is very, very lucky to have CDU, that is the primary unit, crude distillation unit, and then RFCC, what you call residual catalytic cracking unit. How can a refinery a decade back was profitable? In fact, I have been there last 15 years. I worked in the refinery, and I know how it was. That unit, we used to call it cash cow. And the reason why they call it cash cow because the byproduct of the primary unit, which is the CDU, is what is spread into the residual catalytic cracker unit. And how do you run it efficiently and run loss? There's no way. So if you bundle around saying that TOR is not profitable, we only run into loss, it is what we want because we want to maintain the status quo. Now, the importance of refinery cannot be underestimated. Martins, we spend over 400 million USD to import finished products, and that has perpetually put a lot of pressure on our currency. And undoubtedly, that is why our currency is struggling. About 20% of our external, in terms of what we churn out as hard-earned currency to bring in products, is coming from from finished products. Why do we do that when we look at our refinery down? So in other parts of the world, like Oman and the Gulf, they are building more refineries as we have. And then what they do is they clearly link their upstream to the downstream. When I say link upstream to the downstream, if you're an hourly producer and you have a refinery and you keep the refinery down and you import finished product, what the refinery could produce, there's actually no way you can have strategic advantage. And that has been the bane of Ghana's problem. We never have competitive advantage. Why? Because we have a refinery, we lock it down, and then we import finished products when we export oil. That doesn't make sense in any way. So if we want to break through this, we have to be able to link up this upstream and downstream to get the refining into business. If we get the refining into business, Martins, this perpetual struggle, this perpetual pressures that we have on our local currency, it will be a thing of the past.
Right. And from your observation from or external observations, are there people who will be willing to come and support Tor? I mean, take out the political shenanigans. If we're able to decide as a people that we want Tor to function to our own benefit, do you foresee that there are people who will be willing to invest to get Tor running again? And that's to you, Dr. Suleiman.
Yes, I'm 100% sure. And even if the energy minister is saying Ghana to get Tor back, Ghana cannot afford that, they will run into debt. In fact, that is not even government business in a way. Let me put it this way. Let me put it very blunt. You only need to create enabling environment to get the private sector. And I can tell you that from my research, so many private sectors are interested in getting the refinery back to life. Because how can you have a refinery and run loss? So yes, what the government needs to do is to create the enabling environment, remove the bureaucratic bottlenecks that serious private investors who want to invest into the refinery, they can come and invest. Right. And I can tell you, Martin, if they leave the refinery independent, it will make profits. They won't leave it because they have interest in it. That's the problem. If they leave the refinery, even if the refinery is itself as BDC, which BDC can compete with Tor? None. If even the refinery is to do in marketing, which marketing oil company can compete with Tor in that area? None. So yes, there are some internal problems, but the internal problems is because of external issues.
Right.
If you solve the external issue, I think the internal problem will be solved easily, Martins.
Doc, thank you so much. Let me conclude the conversation with Mr. Boakye. So, I mean, let's just say that we as a people want the political actors to leave Tor for us to operate. Per the laws and the management structure that set up Tor, is there a way we can delink political actors from the management and running of Tor?
I think it's essentially the politicians who can do that, right? I mean, when you have such skills demanding leadership position, you are interested in ensuring that you can open it up to the best of minds and people who can apply based on their CVs and tell the state how they want to turn around the business and let it function, all right? And that is what consistently we fail to do. So it's become one of the political handouts where, you find somebody who perhaps would have been key in election financing or has a godfather who was part of the election financing scheme, and then he gets the job. So when he goes there, they're only going to recover money that has been invested in the election and not what turns around the organization for the good of the people. And that is what we've been living with, over the years. And it's not sustainable, right? And I think it's because the people have accommodated it for these 15 years, and it continues, bleeding our pockets.
Right.
And the debt is never paid for.
And so clearly, from what you're saying and from what both experts are saying, if Tor is running efficiently, we are likely to start buying fuel cheaper than we currently are. Is that a truity?
Yeah, I mean, there are various economic benefits for Tor to run efficiently. You would have the over 800 staff being paid from their operations and not accumulating debt and sometimes even selling products to be able to pay salaries, all right, which becomes debt on the books of government. So you have all the allied, I mean, when they refine, we get LPG, we get HFO, we get other products that we are importing that could have been part of that production process. And that also saves you money because refining, importing refined product is more expensive than even importing crude. Right. We have talked about linking our own production processes with the refining of crude in Ghana for years, but there is no political will to do that. And even as we speak, government position and policy intervention is to sustain the importation of product and not the refining through their Gold for Oil program that has been initiated and been touted. Because if you are tying your importation with your export of gold, when do you start, refining your own crude?
Right.
And not just other refineries that are setting up in Ghana have been undermined by government policy in this direction. So we just need to have that consciousness of saving people the public money through these decisions that we make. And that has been, elusive. We don't have it. And that is the problem.
Mr. Boakye, thank you so much for your time. Ben Boakye, Executive Director for the Africa Center for Energy Policy. And then also we had Dr. Yusuf Sulemana, who is also an energy consultant and expert, joining us from Oman. Thank you very much, both gentlemen. It's a conversation we'll definitely be keeping a very close eye on. Why aren't we getting taught to function for our benefit as a people? Answers will be sought for you in subsequent bulletins. Let's turn our attention to politics now. And the former President John Dramani Mahama has intimated that he is overwhelmed with calls from numerous businessmen who have approached him seeking to support him to return to power. Speaking to delegates in the Okaikwe North constituency, the NDC flag bearer hopeful says he will fight corruption irrespective of his relationship status.
Development work that we did in this country, we used only 54 billion cedis. Only 54 billion cedis. By the time we left office, the total debt of Ghana from Nkrumah's time till I left office was 120 billion. Today, our debt is almost 600 billion cedis. And I always challenge them, there is nothing to show for it. Just take Okaikwe North. What new thing has happened here in Okaikwe North since 2017? And even the few things that we were doing, the development projects that we were undertaking in this area, when they came into office, it all came to a standstill. And so Ghanaians are counting on us to rescue them. Times are hard. Inflation is high. Prices of things are going up every day. When we give money to our wives to go to the market, the prices of things are so high that when they go, they come with just a little food stuff. The food they cook is not enough to feed their husbands and their children. And the husbands too are in problem. Some have lost their jobs. Others too, because of the hardship, they cannot increase the chop money. Businesses are laying off workers. I know several businessmen who have laid off most of their workers because they can't afford to pay them. And they come up to me and tell me, President Mahama, we're going to support you. Even if we have to sell property to support you, we'll do that. Because our businesses were doing well under NDC. Today, our businesses have all collapsed. And instead, they're piling on more taxes, from taxation to production. What happened to it? From taxation to production. Today, just go to any supermarket or shop and buy products and look at your receipts. Almost 1/3 of the price that you pay is made up of only taxes. And so the time has come for them to leave. Indeed, the NPP administration must leave government so that Ghanaians can hold them accountable. If they don't leave government, all the corruption that has taken place over these 8 years, they are going to sweep it under the carpet. A new government must come and hold them accountable to the people. And it's not going to be a father for all kind of thing.
Still on politics, though, organized labor has criticized the NPP and the NDC for selling all state assets to the detriment of the Ghanaian worker. Labour says that the situation coupled with low salaries have also affected the benefit of pensioners in the country. Spokesperson of Organized Labour, Dr. Yaoban, was speaking at the ongoing discussion on pensions with leadership of Organized Labour in Accra.
NPP and NDC, they have sold all our assets to foreigners, so that we now have to rely on debt to develop this country. Our incomes are terrible. I mean, even if you compare with our neighbors within the region, Ghana is supposed to be one of the richest countries in the region. But if you look at our incomes are among the lowest. And so if you look at today, we have Social Security and National Insurance Trust. That has a membership of just about 1.7 million people. Those who are qualified to work in this country are about 13 million people. So where is the National Insurance about it? If you look at those who are retired, who are on pension, they will not be up to 300,000. And just a very small percentage are women. And these are issues that we need to look at as labor.
You're still watching Midday Live on TV3. Stay with us. We have business, sports, entertainment all lined up for you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to demonstrate to you the superior properties of Flamingo paint. As compared to other paint brands on the market, we take equal quantities of Flamingo paint and this ordinary paint. We then dilute them with water. And now, let the test begin. The gentleman on the left is going to apply the ordinary paint, and the gentleman on my right will use the Flamingo superior paint. As you can clearly see, Flamingo has the obvious better hiding. Furthermore, Flamingo has painted a much larger area. You know, one bucket of Flamingo paint is equal to several buckets of any other paint brand on the market. Flamingo paint is made with superior formulation to give superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage. Flamingo paint, simply superior.
People fall and they rise. Make you no worry about the things you know we change. The things you know we do today. You go do them tomorrow.
Wow, this girl's got talent. You too can change your world. And it's affordable with Airtel Tigo data bundles.
Bring your dreams to life with the best data bundles only on Airtel Tigo. Dial *111# now.
Airtel Tigo. Life is simple.
Everybody knows Acrobato. And if you know Acrobato, it means you know M-Punch Homeopathic Clinic. M-Punch Homeopathic Clinic is my pillar. Let's hear what others are saying about M-Punch Homeopathic Clinic. Who will be careful M-Punch one?
Chesena me ankasa me period no say problems wom tina ma wo ho idea ma me papa chesena nya asem ketewa na mkwan point no mo hwe me modem no mo hwe bibia na so mo medu a me fae no ene ma won kra mienu foforo kwa na mkwan mu a eba head everything yourself
me ma me no adwodwo eda ho a wontumi nante ene ne ko end point o mama nura ene ne ho idea watimi asori anante.
That's end point for you of Acrobato. Hello hey ohwehwe what che okay a free bra wo di end point wa dance am me call you no me Johnson sema na enkoyie en paso na my emre nyina na magina sebema na me no be fie for there the hard nyina jaresa. You heard everything. I have secret. M-Punch is my secret. M-Punch Homeopathic Clinic. I'm free.
Jamestown, iconic, historic, and a great tourism destination, has faced its fair share of developmental challenges.
So far, Jamestown,
I make a dustbins by one near Fiat Mobecan Nunuan, Nimba Dustbin, Manyama throw away.
Muji Falani Bar, Bola, Taco, Rubber Sack.
Sunrise on 3FM brings you a special edition of the morning show dubbed Sunrise in Your Community. Be our guest this Friday, 21st April 2023, as we host the Jamestown community in a town hall engagement. Together, let's make Jamestown great again. Sunrise on 3FM, pushing the development agenda. 3FM, your urban lifestyle radio.
Last year was massive. This year, it will be the bomb. Tour du Ghana, the ultimate cycling event in the sports calendar, happening on the 20th and 21st of May 2023. Confirm your participation. Registration fee is 200 Ghana cedis for single riders, while 100 Ghana cedis goes for clubs with 10 riders or more. Your registration comes with personal accident cover, accommodation, feeding, and transportation. Start point of the tour is from the West Hills Mall, SCC to the Takrady Mall, and from Takrady to the Cape Coast Chapel Square. For more details, contact 0244-893758 or 0546 063 747. Tour du Ghana, happening on the 20th and 21st of May 2023. Be part of the excitement.
3FM Tour du Ghana is brought to you by Super.
Welcome back to Midday Live on TV3. Time now for business. Menu Aful is with us for the latest. Hello, Menu.
Hi, Martin.
Good to see you. Take it away then.
Thank you very much. Welcome to the business segment. My name is Menu Aful. In our first story today, economist and lecturer at the Ghana Institute of Management and Public Administration, Ebenezer Bugui Anafo, is urging government to redirect its focus into agriculture to create jobs for the teeming unemployed youth. Agriculture, which used to be the main contributor to Ghana's GDP, has continued to struggle over the years, with services taking over the largest contributor to growth in Ghana. Speaking to 3 Business, Dr. Anafo said the only way to resolve the growing unemployment situation is for government to redirect its focus.
I believe that there is a need for us to refocus and redirect our energy towards the agricultural sector so that we can get the best from our agricultural sector. But unfortunately, it is becoming capital intensive, which, to be honest, it must be led by government. Because if it is individuals are to go into agriculture, they may not have that capital to go into agriculture. So I would think that government should, as part of their 1D, 1F, they should make agriculture a priority so that we don't lose significantly from that sector. You know, in terms of export, we could get more from agriculture. And then what they call it, if we are not paying attention to agriculture, that means that it's going to result to food insecurity in our country. And that would.
In more news, business associations, labor unions and consumer groups are expected to meet later today to discuss their next move. This follows passage of 3 new taxes aimed at raising some additional 4 billion cedis annually in spite of concerns raised by businesses. Now, the trader and consumer groups in the past weeks have raised series of concerns regarding the 3 new tax bills, including petitioning Parliament and the Presidency. However, these concerns were not adhered to. The groups will be seeking a review of what they describe as negative policies of government on industries and then ordinary Ghanaian. Away from that, Director of Research at the Institute of Economic Affairs, Dr. John Kwache, is advocating for a constitutional provision that will check financial indiscipline in every regime. He said without such provisions, managers of the economy will continue to abuse their discretionary powers in fiscal matters and put the economy in a fragile state.
Now, since the current system is not working, we propose strict oversight by Parliament over borrowing and debt accumulation, and recommended imposition of a debt ceiling of 60% of GDP at any time, which is generally regarded internationally to be a sustainable threshold. In the US, they do it. If you have to exceed it for some reason, for some shocks or something, you go back to Parliament and seek approval. And then when you exceed it, they give you a time frame to come back within the ceiling. Now, if we had that limit, nobody would take us to 100% of GDP. Now, if this rule is strictly followed, we would prevent our perennial debt crisis. The rule will also force fiscal discipline on the economic managers as a necessity to operate within the borrowing and debt ceilings. Human beings, by our nature, if you leave us to exercise discretionary power, we tend to abuse it. So that's why we need rules. In fact, that's why we need laws at all. Because if you leave human beings, they will normally misbehave. So in the same way, we think that we should also be guided by economic rules. And the best way to guarantee them is to entrench them in the Constitution.
We'll shift our attention to inflation now, as the year-on-year inflation at factory gate prices for all goods and services fell to 43.7% in March from the 50.8% recorded in February 2023. That's according to latest figures by the Ghana Statistical Service. There's more in the following report.
It was followed by construction with PPI. These figures are in line with the consumer price inflation, which also fell to 45% in March 2023. According to the data, the monthly producer inflation rate was 1.7%. For the sectors, industry recorded the highest producer price inflation of 43.3% in March 2023 compared to 57.9% in March 2022. It was followed by construction with PPI of 18.8% and services with PPI of 18%. With regard to the subsectors, transportation and storage recorded the highest year-on-year PPI of 59.3%. A further analysis of the data released by the Statistical Service indicates manufacturing subsector recorded 46%, a drop from the previous rate of 55.7%. Industry recorded 43.4% from 57.9%, and mining and inquiry recorded 40.4%.
Now also, the Ghana Investment Promotion Center is introducing an investor grievance mechanism to enhance conflict resolution among investing public. The mechanism is part of efforts at improving ways in doing business.
The Ghana Investment Promotion Center considers its investor grievance resolution as key to retaining investment, especially within the period of growing global uncertainties. The investor grievance mechanism is expected to lead to a continuous improvement in areas including land administration, taxation, local content development, and infrastructure.
It's a system that we are going to set up to make sure that we get early warning signals. The investors can also, communicate this to us through an online portal. Some people, they don't want to be labeled as troublemakers, so they may have issues, but they would not like to come forward. So this will be an opportunity for them to let us know these things well ahead of time, so that together with the agencies here, we can help resolve these things before they become major issues.
And that's it for the business segments. My name is Minu Afo. Martin, over to you.
Thank you very much, Minu, for bringing us the latest in the world of business. We have news just coming in, and we'll be crossing over shortly to speak to our correspondent, Christopher Amoako, in the northern and Savannah areas, where we are told that the Electricity Company of Ghana seems to have done some disconnection that's likely to have an adverse impact. So information we have is that Savannah Regional Cold Room has been disconnected by the Volta River Authority, that's the VRA. Health officials fear that hundreds of childhood vaccines are likely to go bad. Christopher Marco has joined us. Chris, good afternoon. Thank you for your time. How vital is this cold room, and what is the information that you have picked up so far regarding this disconnection?
Yes, so Martin, since Monday, NETCO VRA had began some disconnection exercise in the northern area, their operational area, to retrieve some monies owed them by their customers, and that exercise has been going on. So earlier today, around 9:30 a.m., the NETCO officials were at the cold room of the Ghana Health Service in the Savannah region, and because they owed them some amount of money, they disconnected them, and that has triggered some form of fear amongst health officials, because that is where they keep their vaccines, especially so that they just received some childhood vaccines from the Ghana Health Service and keeping them there to be administered to the children. So that is their concern as it stands now.
All right. Clearly, we'll be coming back to you to give us further analysis on what this means, especially for healthcare delivery within that area. Christopher Mwako, our Savannah regional correspondent. Time now for the latest in the world of sports, and that will come your way in a few seconds. Stay with us.
Abrantie mi hu fum so bia won ho. I see.
Sa Abrantie we o ka kire nkrofo ni say memu bia anto home of line e wo so bia keke. Na o sa kwa so ya ajenkwa ohene sesai kan ni important ni na odin nchesha dada manfo ase o madu poto. Mewi na mesi ya ka kwa ko ke ho ese na wa sell iti kono agbeale wudini oso yo wahimie wahifa
asasi eni ho ade dudu nyina ya mini meja dia na mo ha se memo ni pa hunu ni eye na ye papa
na ye papa
eni so ni pa beto ni home appliances nyina wo kafam eso se woni wonye mim so fa so pe istay kafam of sorte Atito wani ema na so akodu 65%.
TV kese pa no boy say.
Nso, amma so tell.
Ya TV kese wa hifia.
Anyhow.
Yeah. Abrantie me bisamu a obi antimi ka kire me de ntie se me kuno. Ensam o kan susu to asum. Afi wei ye de Yesu hu be che no. If so kan sempa. Afi foforo no ye be dwe ko. Maka famfo enso to me.
Anyhow. Hello? Kafam. Uma sorti Ponto Pilato, mame.
Digital Zakios, Michelle Kofaka from TV Kasian Brem.
Ratchet, Mabunya.
Kafam, assorted Easter promo. Up to 65% off.
Hello, good afternoon and welcome to the sports segment here on Midday Live with me, Ori Kuampo, for the 2023 edition of the WTT Western African Regional Championships. It's set to take place right here in Accra from April 24th through to April 27th. 3 Sports was at the media launch, which was held earlier on Wednesday. The WTTC West African Regional Championships has been officially launched here at the Labadi Beach Hotel. The tournament is set to be hosted here in Accra and would run through April 24th through to April 27th. The tournament is also open to 18 different African countries from the sub-region, and they would be competing for a slot at the African Championships, which is scheduled to take place later in Tunisia this year. The belief is that Ghana hosting this regional championship would benefit the country as a whole, especially the athletes who would be participating.
We mentioned the fact that already for the athletes, from the view of the athletes, the exposure. I mean, the chance that we get to present 4 teams, I don't think it's even happened in the last decade. Now we've gone to any tournament with a full complement of men and ladies team. It's usually one or the other, 1.5, 3/4 of a team. But now we get to field 4 teams, and that is very good.
Team Ghana, who would be heavily represented in the championship, went through a rigorous approach to prune the team down to 8 players for the tournament.
We had about 24 players. The idea was to take as many players as possible and try and prune them, because we needed just 8 players. That is 8 female and then 8 male. So out of the 24 players, we did what we call the performance assessment. We looked at the way they played, their readiness, their fitness and all that. In the end, we got the 8 players and we are very happy.
Expectations are that the team would perform better than they did last year in Nigeria, where they picked up a bronze medal and silver medal each.
We're confident that we should be able to double or possible quadruple our performance compared to Nigeria last year, where we got 1 silver and 1 bronze.
Let's cross over to Europe, where the final 4 of the UEFA Champions League is set. There's Inter Milan, AC Milan, Manchester City for the right to be called champions of Europe this season. Out of the last 4, just Manchester City are the only side yet to win the trophy. But Pep Guardiola appreciates how far his team has come.
For 3 years in a row, semi-final Champions League, to be honest, the result of 4-1 don't show what really was the 2 games, from my point of view. I could not expect differently for the fact that how good they are, the physicality, the ideas. Bayern Munich is always. I was impressed when I live with them, and I always impressed when I play against them. But in this competition is the details. Erling is a threat. We know that. So the penalty correct, disallowed for nothing is a threat, and he's an incredible machine. Personality for the penalty, and even to miss it, it doesn't matter because this is this competition.
Well, to the Europa League now, where Manchester United head coach Erik ten Hag is expecting a performance from his side in Sevilla when they play for the game tonight. He expects his side to play for the whole 90 minutes if they want to secure qualification.
It's clear how the game went. It's a tie about 2 legs. I think we play over 60 minutes quite well, and then the last 30 minutes we dropped the level, and we became passive. It's not acceptable. We know that, and you see what happened when you are playing a game for only 60 minutes. You can't do it, and when you do it, you get punished. So we have to be aware of it, and I think the lesson we spoke about, we have taken the lesson on Sunday, and then you have seen a different Man United, but we have to go again.
So 2-2 between Manchester United and Sevilla, but that's one of 4 fixtures expected to take place in the Europa League tonight. Let's just quickly run through that. In terms of the fixtures to look forward to this evening for the UEFA Europa League. As I mentioned, Sevilla facing Manchester United, 2-2 in that one. Juventus take a slender advantage to Portugal to face Sporting CP. And then we have Royal Union SG at home to Bayer Leverkusen, also at a deadlock in terms of how the match looks. Roma would also look to overturn a 1-0 deficit when they welcome Feyenoord. Well, that's how we wrap up the sport here on Midday Live. My name is Ray Kwampo. Up next is entertainment with Adjoa Noela.
Now, good afternoon. Let's do some entertainment news updates here on Midday Live. My name is Noella. Now, reggae dancehall artist and CEO of Poom Music, Ras Kuku, is optimistic that his song 331 will win the Reggae Dancehall Song of the Year at the 24th VGM. Now, the Ghetto Youth President said, as he is affectionately called, has been making a strong case for why the award has to come to him. Ras Kuku also tipped Black Sherif to win the VGMA Best Artist of the Year.
You wanna see me crash, but I'm still okay. So me say, life is the book and I am the new page. This year, the Reggae Dancehall Song of the Year is for 331. That is me and Sammy and Saniba.
Just you and nobody else.
Yes.
What if it doesn't come to you? Because
it will come to me.
There's Rocky Dawouni there. Rocky Dawouni has, this is his first time getting nominated for VGMA.
It should come to me because I've been with the people. I've worked with the people. Last year, I was all over in Ghana, even in the US. I went there to support Kwabena when they had a show. I went there to support him. Came back, did my own show, and then December I played about 10 to 12 shows across Ghana. So I was with the people right here. And when you check all the nominees, I'm the only person who defended reggae throughout the year. Yeah.
Till now.
Till now.
But Black Sherif is there for reggae song at least. And we've seen what has happened with Kiddy and Adina.
Yeah, no, but this time around, we've worked, everybody knows about 331. And then this year, it is not going to anybody who is not a reggae dancehall artist.
It won't go to any of them.
No, it's coming to Ras.
But you know, Black Sherif has a lot of, attention.
It's not, Black Sherif,
numbers.
Let me tell you today, Black Sherif is winning the Artist of the Year. I'm telling you that because he worked hard. But when it comes to the reggae side, we worked hard.
For
your genre? Yeah, for the genre, it is Ras Kuku who did best. They know it.
So it's coming back to Poom.
It's coming back to Poom, if not the reggae artist of the year, but the reggae dancehall song.
Yeah.
It's coming to Poom. Mama to Poom!
Whoa!
Well, that's a strong case there, but the voting codes are out, so make sure that you are voting for your favorite artist to win, whichever category that you choose on the night. It's on the 6th of May at the Accra International Conference Center, so it's going to be a big one. But you can follow the Ghana Music Awards page for the codes so you can vote for your favorite person. Now, we're still on the VGMA. I mean, we have a few weeks to the Grand Day, so definitely we're going to be following up on some of the possible nominations and winnings as well. So Gospel Hitmaker and Artist of the Year nominee PSA Esther has also been making a case, for why she deserves to win the VGMA Artist of the Year. That's a huge category, the big one.
I know a lot of the nominations came your way, 7 solid nominations. But is there a particular one you are keen, very keen on taking home PSA?
That is the question that I always laugh about, because what I always say is, I have 7 nominations, and I know that every category that I've been nominated there, I know I qualify to win. So if I qualify to win, why wouldn't I, wish for win?
Yeah, people have said that when it comes to the gospel categories, now there's no competition. It is for PSA, but they see more competition when you're talking about the ultimate one, Artist of the Year. And so far, opinions are divided.
I know Christian, we are winning. Christian, we are Yados. I mean, Muslims. I mean, Christians, Ghana. And I know that a lot of people related to this song. And I know, they are always been remembered that God has been so good to them. So this year they are going for Wayemi, because Obi Ajitum say Radia Yeni Meboa. Obi Biajitum say Radia Yeni. So no shaking. I know no shaking. Yes, I know gospel is winning.
All right, yes. So as the gospel fraternity roots for you and wants you to win, the other side are also rooting for their people. Some have said that when it comes to the year under review, you did very well, but they're arguing that Blacko made it to so many international platforms, and that puts him ahead of competition. Have you heard that?
In fact, everybody has his or her opinion to say, but we also don't know gospel idea. I'm talking about gospel platform. Bia what Ghana has said. PSS and we are talking about Ghana Music Awards. Gospel be a huge be a Ghana. When it comes to gospel, platform. So definitely no, I have a point.
So you think the conversation should not be so much about what happened outside Ghana? It is Ghana Music Awards.
Yes.
Whatever happens
Well, a lot of confidence in there, but don't forget to vote, vote, and vote. And that's how we wrap up on the entertainment news segment here on Midday Live. My name is Noel. I'll be handing over to Martin now.
All right, thank you very much. Let's find out what's happening on the international front. And we're starting from Norway, where the ambassador to Sudan has told the BBC that conditions are hellish in the capital Khartoum amid intense fighting between rival military factions. It comes after the fighting continues into its 6th day. Prolonged gunfire and explosions were heard throughout the night, marking the failure of the second ceasefire attempt in many days. Residents have been fleeing Khartoum, fearful about dwindling food supplies and the collapse of medical services. Clashes have been reported elsewhere in Sudan. Water and electricity cuts have affected many Sudanese homes since clashes began between the Rapid Support Forces, which is a paramilitary group, and the Sudanese army on the 15th of April. And that's how we bring the bulletin to an end. Thank you very much for watching. Our website, 3news.com, has many more stories for you. Have a good afternoon, and as always, stay positive. I am Martin Esiedu Date. Bye for now.